Hello, beautiful people. I finally made it back on here for chapter 3. Of my book, Sex in the 21st Century, Healing Collective and Individual Trauma. And I'm just going to dive right into chapter 3 for you, just summarizing the main points that I do in there. And mostly in this chapter, I talk about what we must teach our children. Basically, I say that we must be the change, and in order to change the future, we got to look at the younger generations and figure out what we want to teach them. So, one of the things that I bring up is that we need to teach them that the body is a gift and that you can actually be sexy without revealing too much of your body, and that we need to always treat our body as the sacred gift that we've been given. I also speak about misogyny and how it's important to speak our truth instead of to be silent, which is in many cultures, especially from my culture, we raise our girls specifically to be silent and not speak the truth, and just keep the truth because, heaven forbid, the truth might shame us. We're also taught to regard women as objects. So, and I talk about how all these things are the misogynist, I can't even say them. They come from the misogynistic approach, basically, that, women are just things. And we have to control them in some way or shape or form. We also forget about boundaries when it comes to misogyny. Women are not encouraged to have boundaries. It's not something that a lot of women even know what boundaries are. In certain cultures, it's a tough subject because the woman is supposed to self-sacrifice everything for the family. And if she doesn't, then she's a bad person, basically. Next, I speak about the importance of a spiritual practice. And this is something that we need to teach our children. It doesn't matter which spirituality we choose or they choose, as long as we have that. I think it's always a great springboard for people in their early childhood all the way through puberty and young adulthood to have that connection, that spiritual connection, whatever it is that they practice. It's important to keep it alive, because once it's lost, there are a lot of negative things that can happen. And I speak from firsthand experience. I won't go into detail there, at least not for now. And I also say in the book that we need to teach children that all bodies are beautiful, regardless of what shape or form or size or skin color or hair color or eye color or any of that. That all doesn't matter. It's a teaching that needs to be relayed, because if children don't hear it often, they're not going to learn it. They're actually going to learn what's mainstream. That, oh, you got to be this thin and you got to weigh this much and you got to look this way and you got to have this kind of product on your face and you need this lipstick and you need that dress to look beautiful. But it's all not about that. Another thing I talk about in this chapter is that the erotic can be sacred. It's not shameful or dirty. It just all boils down to having morals, values, and ethics within that container. And there's ways to do that. I haven't really explored how or even sat down to think about it, but I think that if a bunch of us came together and brainstormed it, I'm sure we can come up with some sort of a curriculum. I don't think it's that difficult. One of the things is like consent, right? The other is letting your closest know about your relationship, who you're with. Like, don't hide these things. Anyway, moving on. Then I talk about porn. And my thing growing up, since I was a really little kid, I've always thought that sex is a private thing. You don't just run around and talk about it to people. Like, if somebody is married and they're intimate with their partner, it's not public knowledge. It's not something that you share with your friends at dinner and discuss like what went on, right? Like that's why it's a sacred thing. It's not public knowledge. So put in porn. That's where it's like a public thing where these people are engaging in this intimate act, making it seem like it's just a whatever transaction on a screen. Do you see how that literally like vibrationally kind of like drops the whole thing from sacred, like if you put it on a balance, to like the other complete opposite spectrum, basically, right? So something to think about there, like why do we have porn and who thought that this was a great idea, and like how do we get out of it, basically? What do we do to get out of it? It's more common than you know, because it's a coping mechanism mostly, and a way to escape emotions and traumas, just like being addicted to alcohol and drugs. People can be addicted to porn. It's a thing. And then we also have to teach children about fake spirituality. And this is something I think more common in our age than previous ages, because there's been so many new age spiritual teachers, or not even just the new age scene, even in the yogic scene. There have been teachers who have been exposed for abusing their students and taking advantage of them in that way, intimately speaking, saying that, oh, if you do this with me, then all your karma is going to be cleared, things like that. So we need to be mindful of cautioning our children against these predators. And then we have age-specific education. Now, what we mean by age-specific education is you're not going to sit there and talk about erotic stuff to 3-year-olds, right? That'd be counterintuitive. We would be completely disregarding the whole concept of this book. So we would have to pick the topics that are age appropriate and talk about them in class. Not bring in the whole idea about let's transition gender now in a 3-year-old class. Why do these 3-year-olds need to even think about that right then? Why is it a thing that they must discuss at that point in their life? I don't know. Seems a little premature to me. Their brains haven't developed. They're still developing. They haven't completed that development. don't you think we're messing around with their capacity to understand things? Like, I mean, it doesn't take too much to grasp this idea. It just baffles me what's happening these days. And then one of the final things that I say in this chapter is that we need to teach children conation, which is the ability to control or have self-mastery or willpower, basically, which is the same concept as mindfulness. We want to be able to be the masters of our mind and body and spirit, so that we're not following every single instinct and whim and desire that we have. I recently heard a talk about desire that was like spot on. And the person, actually, he's a Sufi, and he was saying that ego, basically, our ego is in place because of desires. That's why we have ego, because the ego is always desiring things. It's our ego that desires food. It's our ego that desires to be a Hollywood star. And then it's up to us to regulate it, to not allow it to get everything at once right away. Like, and that's kind of like one of the reasons we fast, so that we train our spirit and our ego to like delay the gratification. The more we do this, the more we're able to control ourselves, and our willpower becomes stronger. So again, this also goes back to like instilling morality and ethics in schools, because it's something that's really lacking. I think in my generation, we used to have ethics and morality and values talks in high school. But this is more than 30 years ago. So I don't know what has happened now. It's like they've been erased. And that's part of what distinguishes us from the animal kingdom. Animals don't have ethics and values and morals. And is that what we're aiming for? We just want to be animals? I don't know. Something to ponder. Okay, I will come back for chapter 4 soon. So take care, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.